Welcome back again to Elevate Your Game. I am your host, Mrs. Denise Parker, and also I have a co-host joining us very soon, and then I'm going to switch to being a moderator. Yes, I will. Today, we're going to be speaking on the power of your voice with our special guest. It's going to be about voting, it's going to be about activism, your political rights, and learning all these things. But first, let's go to our announcements. All right, as you can see, our announcements are live and in living color. Beautiful. So our HBCU fun fact for today is about an HBCU legacy initiative. It is alarming to see that 10.6% decrease in HBCU students voting and a 5.3% decrease in total Black student voting between the years of 2012 and 2016 elections. Given the history and tradition of HBCUs and the Black student political participation, we need to see more of that. This is why we're having this conversation tonight on Elevate Your Game about the HBCU legacy, about the power of voting, and how to be very specific in building up more initiatives that increase voting rights and voting awareness and also political activism. We want our students on campuses through and through to be a part of the electoral process. And this is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation, to continue the legacy and the tradition. For NCRF, our mission, if you haven't known already, is the National College Resources Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit educational enhancement organization. Our mission is to curtail the high school dropout rate and increase degree and/or certificate enrollment among underserved, underrepresented, at-risk, low-resource, homeless, and foster students. Our vision is to close the gap in educational achievement, workforce, and economic disparities with the goal to end racism and racial inequality. And one of the ways that we're doing that is not just by having this platform on Elevate Your Game, but also raising awareness and also fundraising. We have a fundraising opportunity coming up this June 23rd. It's an NCRF Summer Golf Classic. It's held in California and Lakewood Country Club and Tennis Center, June 23rd. If you're interested in donating or registering to join us, you can scan that QR code to apply and register. We are also having a virtual internship and career recruitment spotlight. That is on June 1st. I will be hosting along with some of my business colleagues and also corporate sponsors from June 1st from 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's a virtual event. You're going to hear directly from company recruiters on what opportunities are available in many different industries and the best ways to apply and get hired. You can also get your resume directly in the hands of recruiters, receive guidance on the internship and hiring process, and also we'll have people on to talk about resume and interview tips from experts that will help develop you professionally. You can register here and also upload your resume on this second QR code. If you're interested, please do so. All our information is going to be provided on our links on our website and our webpage on the Internship and Careers Programs webpage. Our corporate sponsor and a new partnership that we have developed with T-Mobile, they are going to be joining us for that virtual internship and career spotlight. They have benefits for all. They have those who are high school graduates and or GED, have their GED, or college graduates or recently college enrolled, and you love working with people. There is commissions in their sales positions, and they have great benefits after 90 days after working. So healthcare benefits, tuition reimbursement, and other incentives are given to you 90 days upon working. There's sales, there's tech, there's business to business, customer care roles, excellent training, there's growth in the company. You can scan that QR code to receive, to upload your resume, and that is a link that is directly with T-Mobile and ourselves. So they're tracking all the resumes that are coming from NCRF. You can also email me at denise@ncrfoundation.org for more information. For our LinkedIn Spotlight internship, that I get a lot of, I say this each week, LinkedIn sends me about 30 internship opportunities a week. I see some that are really cool. And Morgan Stanley is a financial company, and they do lots of different financial advising initiatives and programs. This is a great way to learn financial analytics skills and developing your business to business in global wealth management and financial services. So this is an excellent opportunity for you if you're interested. If you scan that QR code, and if you have a high school diploma and you're in the pursuit of a college degree, this is really cool, because a lot of internships don't even offer at that lower level. They want you at least to be a junior. It's a maximum duration of a 10-month. It's a strong desire to gain further understanding of global wealth and management in business. And you have really cool understanding of, learning from other people who have higher roles in other areas. This is a great opportunity to work in teams with strong analytic skills, ability to interpret. Oh, if you're multilingual too, this is excellent. So the list goes on. I can't even express it enough. It's, I'm getting tongue-tied just even thinking about Morgan Stanley internship. It's on the LinkedIn page, and that QR code will lead you to that. So let's get started. This is Elevate Your Games, presents the power of your voice. So before we move on to talk to our special guest, I want to introduce you to the host of this show. Now that I'm transitioning into moderation, I want you to meet Miss Tamara Bates. She is here. Hello. Say hello to our audience. Can't hear you.
What's going on? How you doing, Denise?
Hello. How is your day?
So far, it's going pretty good. Can't complain.
Good.
Can't complain.
Before we get started to introduce our special guest that you brought on,
hmm
tell us a little about who you are and what is your role at National College Resources Foundation.
Yeah, so just a bit about who I am. I'm Tamara Bates, and I lead our government relations and HBCU partnerships. So what that looks like is, you know, partnering with organizations, youth organizations, as well as advocacy organizations that can help NCRF um, prepare students and train students to go out and not only be change makers, but allow them to be equipped with the right tools so that they can go out and make the world a better place. And that's using those tools in their own right. So there's no right or wrong way to use the tools that you're equipped with, but just making sure that the students in the community are equipped with the tools so that they can be a part of the change making process. And as far as just the HBCU relations, that's also partnering with the HBCUs where we can go onto the campus or just create cohorts where the students will be able to have some synergy, but also participation in the power of your voice. And what that looks like for each campus is different. So some campuses may host forums, and some may do days of action, or other campuses may have a lunch and learn. But what we are most excited about is not every HBC is different. It's not a one size fit all. So everybody has their niche on their campus, and so we're looking to expand the schools that we're working with as well as the organization. So people have the opportunity to you know go out and make a difference, and they have the tools that they need. So that's pretty much my role.
And one of the things that you and I have been working on is making sure we hear from our students, the ones who are graduating from these prestigious institutions, so that we can hear what they're going to bring to the table, to
Right.
the future, to the now, to what's happening in the social and the justice and the political arena, so that
hmm
they know that they have a pathway and their voice is being heard, and
Yep.
we are advocating for them on their behalf when we're talking to leaders. So I'm super excited. So
Yep.
you are hosting today's Power of Your Voice, and every month we try to feature something about anything in political or social activism. Who's our special guest today? Go ahead and
Yes,
introduce.
so we have LeLann Evans, who is a dear friend and a brother who's in the fight in the trenches. Every day on the ground, boots on the ground, work that's being done. And I think it's always important to include the people who are in the trenches and doing the work, so that there's a different point of view and a perspective of where and how people receive information, but also they're getting it from someone who's actually doing the work. And I think, since meeting Leland, I always admire the work that he does, not only just for the state of Tennessee, but around the world, to make sure that well-oiled candidates are elected, but also people understand the the background of what it is to be in politics, but also understanding advocacy. So it's a great opportunity to bring people to the table who have the tools, again, to equip people what they can put into their toolbox, so that they will be able to have an arsenal of just things ready for whatever situation that may come their way. If it's, writing letters to their elected officials, or, going out doing days of service, or that could look as, lead into opportunities for individuals to run for office. And so it's just so many ways. Again, it's not a one size fit all. It's just being prepared. And I think what he's doing, especially with his curriculum, is really, a testament of having like the village and everyone to pour into the youth and pour into the village, so that we all can be equipped to ready to change the world. So it's not one size fit all. It's just making sure that everybody is on the same page. So
Well, I'm ready and excited to meet Mr. Evans. Are you ready, Mr. Evans, so I can bring you on? Thumbs up. Very good. All right. Welcome. Welcome to the show,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I want you just to quickly just introduce yourself. So before we get started, just tell us who you are. What is your organization? What are you doing? And then let's start our conversation with Tamara leading.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is LeLann Evans. I am the founder of Our Future Voters. It is a youth political education company. We strive to teach the position, purpose, and power of each elected office on all levels of government. We have curriculum, we have community engagement activities. We also help with campaign consulting. And our mission is to make political education a priority across our nation.
Excellent. So let's get started. Go ahead, Tamara. Go ahead and just have this conversation. Why did you have him on? And what was the whole purpose of you guys? How did you guys meet? And, maybe you guys were in action or something. I don't know. Kind of set the tone.
yeah. So I want to start a different, just route. So Leland, just share with us your, I would say, the idea, the aha moment that popped in your head when you was this conceptualization of Our Future Voters, when it was birthed. What was going through your orbit? What were you thinking? And when this idea birthed into fruition, to execution, to where it is now?
It was a moment where I realized that after working in campaigns for about 10 years, I had learned, I had learned that my high school, for my senior trip, we took a trip to the maximum security prison. And I live in Nashville. We could have went downtown to see the state capitol. We could have went downtown to see the mayor. We could have went downtown to see our city councilors. That's not where they took us. They took us to the maximum security prison at the end of our one semester government class. And that made me start to think about what was the message behind public education, and that one semester of government course
Mm-hmm.
that you could have took us to see actual elected officials. You could have took us to meet the people that actually make decisions over our lives. And instead, you took us to the maximum security prison. And so after working in politics for about 10 years, I hired someone to be an organizer underneath me, and they were telling me, it was a couple of them, and they were telling me about their senior trips, about
Mm-hmm.
how they did get to go see the governor, or how they got to go to Niagara Falls, or all these other lavish areas. And it really just made me start to think deeply into what I was receiving and being prepared for in public school education, versus what some of these other schools were teaching their kids. And so that is what really sparked it in my head that, hey, there's an agenda being pushed in school systems. And the agenda is not to teach these kids how to maneuver through the government, or who to contact when there's no sidewalks in their communities, who to contact, or how to get basketball courts in their communities. They're
Mm-hmm.
not teaching those things in the school system, which you go through your whole life never knowing these things because it's not being taught to you. And so
Right.
I created Our Future Voters to push for political education to become a priority in public schools, and not even just in public schools, but in general, for us to start teaching our kids at a younger age that political education is just as important as math, just as important as science, just as important as literacy. And so that was the aha moment when I started looking back at my own political education and realizing that I didn't gain political education at a young age, but due to the life that I was living, I became more politically educated, more politically aware.
Okay. And then can you like go delve in, like dive into when you were saying, you know, when the students that you were engaged with, shared that, they had an opportunity to go and visit the governors or go and visit elected officials. What was that moment like, seeing like, hey, there's like a different tale of that's like a tale of two cities, or a tale of two, narratives being pushed out there. How was that, also staring at the work that you're doing, because now it's like, all right, we got to get the kids, or the youth, not the kids. We have to
Mhm.
get the youth really understanding how government works, because since they're not teaching it, but then too, it's like they may make it confusing. So what was that bridge to you building your curriculum? What was the main points that you wanted to hit when you were building
Mhm.
your curriculum, to so that the youth will be engaged and really grasping the information so that it could stick with them?
Well, as a freedom fighter, as an organizer, as a person who has worked within the community, everything I do is surrounded around empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
self empowerment, self determination. And so everything that my company or that moment was about was truly giving the kids, or giving the students, the opportunity to have a fighting chance in life. Government controls everything around you. And if you aren't taught about what's going on around you, or how it's going on around you, who's making these decisions, who decides where these resources are going, then you never know fully the concept that, hey, you pay taxes from the moment you're brought into this world. You're going to be in debt pretty much because of decisions that are being made with or
Mm-hmm.
without your knowledge. And so the idea and curriculum was based on, okay, I'm going to teach the kids the position, purpose, and power of each elected office, so that even if they don't get fully engaged in politics, if there's ever a moment where they are wondering why they don't have sidewalks, they're not expecting the president to give that to them. They're not expecting the governor to be like, hey, if you vote for me, I'll bring sidewalks to your communities, or I'll make sure that you have bus lanes in your community. That's not state level, that's not federal level, that's city level, that's local level. I want these kids to be able to know who they need to be holding accountable for these things. And so that is where the idea is just pretty much self-empowerment, so that these kids can be educated on the political scale, and that controls everything they do. They go get jobs. The government's going to be giving them minimum wage jobs coming out of high school, and like that's my biggest thing. That's my number one thing I go to. I ask kids, how much money do you want to make? And they talk about millions of dollars. They always want to be billionaires and all of that. And I let them know that since I was 16, minimum wage has been $7.25. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it is now 15 years later and the minimum wage is still $7.25. And so I let them know that, hey, you could be the person that holds your elected official accountable to bring that change, but you have to know how to do that. And so that's where it starts.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Tamara's going to jump back on. I think she's having a little technical difficulties, but you mentioned, about why you got started and what was the purpose in getting started. What was it for you that when you were going out there building these relationships with future voters, establishing some type of curriculum, what was the biggest need you saw that need to be addressed? Like, did they understand the voting process? Did they understand, what was it that you said, why are people of color, specifically Black and brown, turned off from hitting those voter booths? What was the problem to kind of dismantle that you had to kind of break down in your curriculum?
I would never forget the moment I was talking to a woman, and I mean, there's so many different moments, honestly, when it comes to the education side of it. But there was one moment where I was working for a mayoral candidate, and I was door knocking, and I came across a woman. I asked her if she would vote for my candidate, and she said no, because she was voting for another person. However, that person was running for governor. And so it shocked me to see that people are willing to go out and vote, and they are strong about going out to vote because that's what's pushed to them, that you got to go vote. But we don't push to be politically educated before you go vote. And so we have this person that is sure that they're going to go vote for this person, but that person is running for governor, and the person I'm asking you about is running for mayor, and you don't know the difference between the two. And so that is what really was what I started seeing more and more as a barrier, is that people were not being educated on the difference between mayor and governor, or what their mayor is supposed to do. You can't hold somebody accountable for their inactions if you don't even know what they're supposed to be doing in the first place. And so that was where the brick wall was for me to getting to voters, was letting them know, hey, there's an election going on. You need to get out and vote. And then I started realizing that that is the message that has been pushed to us the most. We need to get out and vote. We need to get out and vote. And my company slogan is, don't just vote, be politically educated. Because you just getting out to vote, but not being educated on who you're voting for, what they're supposed to do, what position they're in, that's like handing somebody a loaded gun without giving them any training on how to use it.
Right. It's so much going on in the political arena, and being aware of how to go about the process of, like you said, it's not going to your president for the potholes in the street, or it's not going to your governor. It's going to the actual your city officials, your council members,
Mm-hmm.
the people who are surrounding, and your superintendents, the ones who are walking those streets and learning what's
Yeah.
wrong with those streets.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, before I bring Tamara back on, what would you say has been the most critical thing in your delivery in getting the people to understand? Like, what has been the most critical part of your whole um, role? Just like you having this presence, is there more organizations out there like yourself, or do you find yourself being a one-man show in a big pond and trying to cast a wide net to bring in a whole bunch of fish? Like, how do you see yourself in this position? What has been some critical issues for yourself as an organizer?
So I do believe, and I don't want to take any credit that is not deserved. So if there are other organizations, I definitely want to partner with you. I want to help because, again, the mission is to educate the kids. But I have not found many other companies that are specifically geared towards political education. Again, you have organizations that are registering people to vote, but again, another issue that's big here in Tennessee is not necessarily registered voters, but it's actually the voter turnout. So we have less than 30% of the registered voters turning out to vote. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to get more voter registration drives. We need to get more people registered to vote. That's the messages that's being pushed. But when you look at numbers and see that 30% or less of people are actually turning out to vote, that says not that we need to register more people to vote, but that we actually need people that are registered to vote to comprehend how important this is and get them to actually turn out to vote. And so I meet a lot of organizations that are voter registration drive based. I meet a lot of organizations that are voter turnout based. And again, I'm all for telling people to go vote and having a mission to tell people to go vote. But before you can tell them to go vote, are you educating them? Are you letting them know who's running? Again, the position, purpose, and power. Are you asking them? Are you educating them on what position they're running for? What power does that position have? And what is the purpose of that position? So that way they're not being blinded by charismatic speakers. They're not voting on people based solely on color. Like, well, this is the black person. This is the best person that I'm voting for because they're black. That's not what I want people to be voting based on. I want people to vote based on the fact that they've been politically educated, and that if we are the same race, but we live in two different communities, that what I'm voting for might not be the exact same thing that you're voting for. And we have to vote for the best interest of our actual community and not just what we have been told. Again, go vote because of whatever reasons. So I do think that my company, as a political education company, is it's a piranha in the water. I'm mighty. I fight hard. It might be small. It might be a big pond out here, but I do think that we're growing traction. More and more people are starting to catch on to the fact that this isn't just about voter registration or just about getting people to turn out to vote, but that my company is based more specifically in actually educating people on voting and pushing for public education to make political education a priority in public schools.
Yeah, I never seen an organization talk about political education.
Mm.
I've heard advocacy, the word. I had empowerment is a word, but education. I mean, there's a whole other role that you can get into schools. You can do more
Yeah.
initiatives. You can create more workshops and programs when you talk about education. I have
Mm.
one more question that came to the top of my head, and there might be more, but tomorrow's gonna continue on. Now this my sister's back. Hey sis, what's up?
Yes, let me tell you,
Welcome back. Welcome back.
right? Let me tell you, this technology we still in retrograde, so we
Listen.
still in a spot all the way finished. We ain't out of the clear yet. So technology it get the acting funny. So I'm back. So
Yeah, no worries. That's why we have a tag team here. in your opinion, in the past, African Americans in the turn of the century of the 1900s, between slavery into the Industrial Revolution, you found that Blacks were really politically active,
Mhm.
not just, running for offices in their designated towns and cities that they were allowed to live in during that
Mhm.
time, but they were also being very active financially and very wealthy. And then all of a sudden there was a huge shift. It was like boom,
Mhm.
the Red Summer hit during the year of the early 1900s. It probably went on more than that one year, but that's just the year that they chronicalized it. A lot of lynchings were going on, and then people were burned and pushed out of their living situations, their homes. Why do you think there was such a gap between there and to now? Like, there's been speckles of where we have initiatives and prominence in politics, but then it wasn't until the recent, years where we see more Black political officials really being out there, advocating, showing their faces, raising
Mhm.
their fists to the past powers. What's happening? Why do you, what in your opinion, what has been the motivating factor from the past to now?
Um, I think there's so many different factors. I would say I believe this next generation is fed up. We are no longer in the kumbaya phases. We're no longer in the turn the other cheek phases. We're no longer in the wait until justice comes. That's not the generation that we grew up in. We are a generation of technology. We are in a generation of immediate gratification, and I think that that plays a part in what we want to see for justice. We want immediate justice. We're not trying to wait for it. We're not trying to wait for a drawn out process of due process. We want to see justice right now because we have waited so long. We feel like we've watched enough movies to see like, okay, we've been waiting. That's what our ancestors did. That's what our grandparents did. And now we're in a generation that Martin Luther King talked about, that we are in that phase of rioting. You haven't listened to us, and we, as this new generation, are ready to speak out. We are in a position we're in a generation of knowledge, and so now we are being more creative in ways to influence our communities. So I think that not only just in elected official positions, but in community organizing positions, we are becoming more uh, inclined on how to influence our communities. And that doesn't necessarily always mean a good thing. Like, some, obviously you have ways that we are negatively influence our community as well, but we also are finding new ways to positively influence our communities. I also think that now with technology, we are able to use best practices. We're able to see what happened in California and be like, okay, well, we saw what they did and we're going to use that here in Tennessee now. Whereas back then, we had to wait for a newspaper. We had to hope that somebody could read this newspaper. But right now, you can get on social media right now, and on your feed, you'll see two or three different protests, and you'll see, they have die-ins, and you have people kneeling, and you have all these different ways to show civil disobedience. And our generation is able to take that, use some more creative ways with it, and use it immediately. Whereas back in the older days, we had to wait, we had to hear about it. We had to trust that the one person that heard about it brought it to us and teach it to us, all based off of word of mouth. Whereas now we are all tuned in. We can send that video to however many people. We got 5 leaders to be able to teach it now. So I think that there's many different factors, such as technology and being fed up, that play into why now we are all gun ho, ready to take positions in politics, take positions in community organizing, take positions.
It sounds like we have no excuse why we can't be involved at this point.
We Exactly, exactly. And again, I'm from Tennessee, so we just had the Tennessee three.
Yeah.
A situation like that immediately blew up to national news. So you had somebody who, right here in my own hometown, I'm watching it from front row seats, thinking like, okay, this is Tennessee. This is how Tennessee gets down. The state is a racist. I won't say the state is racist state. I gotta be mindful of certain things. But we live in a red state, a super majority Republican state,
Mhm.
and there are things that go unnoticed or overlooked because we live in a Republican state. And so, seeing the situation that happened with the Tennessee three, I'm looking at it as, this is just how things are done in Tennessee.
Mhm.
And in 2 days, we got vice president coming to speak at our at Fisk University
Mhm.
because we have social media and videos and everything that is able to be circulated on a international level so quickly.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, there is racism everywhere. It's unimplicit and implicit biases
I
that you
agree.
can just kind of like people don't even know why they're being so cruel
Hmm.
just because of power. But Tamara, go
And
ahead
I'll
and
call it out. There is definitely racism here in Tennessee. I don't know why I'm
it's
playing. I'm calling it out.
it's everywhere. It's
I'm calling it
everywhere.
out. If that causes me for whatever reason
No,
or anything
no,
like
it's
that, I'm calling it
everywhere.
out. Racism is here in Tennessee, and it is live.
Yeah, it's everywhere. But no, we understand what you're saying. It's it's all family. We're talking amongst each other. We're educated. We're speaking on these levels. Go ahead, Tamara. You finish on bringing us home.
Yes, I'm gonna bring us home because I don't want to keep us past, time. It's still a good Wednesday. But like, what is unique about engaging youth voters? Like, why do you think that the youth are the pinnacle of like the movement of getting voting, civic engagement, like
Hmm.
the like that sauce of like.
It is. Well, see, I think that if wait, if if we don't save our youth, then we have no future.
Hmm.
Our older generations have already fought their fight. Our current generation is already fighting our fight. The way I see it is the only way for us to have any type of different outcome is if we start planning ahead. We
Right.
will need to have a generation of planned sacrifice in order to grow the crops that we want. So I'm a gardener. I love to garden.
Hmm.
And my brother was joking, quick story. I was planting sunflower seeds. My brother made a joke and he was like, "Oh, you got sunflower seeds, you gonna eat them?" And I was like, "Well, if you eat the sunflower seeds, then you'll never get the actual sunflower." And
Mm.
so that's how I see the importance of teaching the youth. If we only fight for what we want right now, then we will never get that beautiful flower from the next generation.
Oh, that's
Ooh,
powerful.
that's good. That's good.
That's
And
a great.
so and so we have to understand that in the past the black and brown struggle has always been right in our face so much that we couldn't think to prepare for the next generation.
Right.
When our parents was going when our grandparents was going to school and they were fighting to get to school, that was so that they could get an education themselves of how to get out of the troubles they were in.
Hmm.
But now that we are in a generation of technology and a generation of information and knowledge, the struggle is not in our face as blatant it was as back in the day. And so now we need to start preparing and sowing seeds for the next generation. Hey, I can sacrifice some of my time to sow into the next generation. I can take away from my own personal gain to make sure that the community I live in is going to have a better opportunity.
Right.
And I think that that's where I see fighting for the next generation is because If we don't start fighting for them, they're going to go through the same thing. Again, I push political education. If no one's going to stand up to the school systems today and say, hey, we want our kids to be politically educated. We want you, the public school system, to make it mandatory that all 4 years of high school, you teach our kids about politics. You teach our kids about financial literacy. You teach our kids about coding. If we don't start demanding these things for the next generation, they're going to grow up just like we did. They're going to graduate and be 35 before they realize, I don't know anything about home ownership. I don't know anything about financial saving, budgeting, anything like that, because I was taught basic education.
Not
The
even
same
basic. It's
education.
just box checking. It's like, oh, you did this. It's just box checking.
Yeah, it's a repetitive cycle. I mean, it's somebody has to, be the curse breaker, and it's like, yo, stops with my family, and then from there it's just passed on because, I'll just use my story for instance. My parents really didn't talk about, politics in the house, and not that they didn't know about it. It's just my mom was always working a 9 to 5, and my dad was, working. So it was just this space of, surviving and really not, I don't knock them, but it took for me to really, get into a space like I don't know anything about, politics until it was the environment that I was around. So that pretty much, groomed me, or I'll say cultivated like the seeds that was planted, which, to what I'm doing now. But I think, as you said, just I was taking, some notes like be the bridge, prepare the students, and sow the seeds, because I feel like oftentimes so many people want to see the seeds bloom now, and it's like an anxious. And I mean, we too dealing with this microwave generation of like, they want to see everything, quick, instant, fast, in a hurry, which they don't understand that patience take time. That's why it's called patience is a virtue. In order for a tree to blossom, it has to go through its growth spurts. And I think that's how we can look at like this political space. But in the meantime, it's like if you're cultivating something to grow, you got to be at it all the time. You got to, water. You just can't go and expect for it to blossom without caring for it. So I definitely agree with you, having more, spaces or curated opportunities for the students to really be engaged. And that's in the class.
What would you guys say, both of you guys, just hearing this conversation go back and forth about the future and what our youth are going to be what's expected upon them? Because like you said, LeLann, our elders, their fight, they already finished their fight. I mean, they already did their fight. And then the current generation, which is us, we're fighting the good fight. And then we're paving a way for the younger generation to come up the ranks and continue to press through to the next. What do you think about artificial intelligence and how it's going to play a role now with, the biases that are going to be out there even more? We think racism and prejudice is bad when it's amongst humans. Now you got machine learning, coding, and creating algorithms that are going to marginalize voters. It's going to marginalize home ownership. It's going to marginalize people who live in certain zip codes based on their lack of knowledge of AI and how it affects you. Like, hey, you pick up the phone, you're talking to a person, and then all of a sudden you fill in these prompts, and because of your zip code or because you pick the wrong box on that particular phone call, now the algorithm is saying, oh, this person is not
Put them on hold.
Put them on hold. We're gonna have to send you to a different department, and you don't get the real truth. I have these educational talks every time we go out into our expos and say AI is going to affect the future. And I ask our students, out of all the 15 cities that we travel to with the National College Resources Foundation Black College Expos, 1% will raise their hand that they understand and are going to be involved in AI as far as a career future. And that's over 20,000 students we a year. 1% raises their hand.
That's horrible. That's AI will drastically change the future of the wealth gap, the knowledge gap, pretty much every factor that goes into society is going to, I would say, remove, again, like you said, the face of racism. It's going to remove the face of anything negative and put it behind a computer. So I'm a fan. I use Chat GPT all the time. And so I see how it can be used for good. But I also see, like you were saying, like if we are talking to a robot, if we're talking to, or if these robots are being programmed, at the end of the day, they're not building themselves, they're being built. Who are they being built by? Who are they being programmed by? What is the mindset of the person that's making these AI softwares?
Yeah.
Because again, if it's not us, then how do we know that they're not being trained to think like them?
Yeah.
And so we have to understand. I know when I was younger, our big thing was cybersecurity. And so with cybersecurity, my uncle in high school was big on telling me, LeLann, you need to get into cybersecurity. This is going to be a big thing. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to get involved. And I was probably one of those 1%ers, like, cybersecurity sounds boring, sounds like a desk job that I don't want. And looking back now, cybersecurity is one of the highest paying jobs that you can possibly get.
Yep.
Yep.
Six figures and up.
And so I think that this AI programming is going to be that exact same thing. You have to understand that it's not, it will be the future. It is happening. It's not going to go away. We have to be ready to embrace it and be educated on it so that we can be empowered with it instead of running from it. Because like I said, it's not going away. It's going to take over. We are on that phase.
And we need to have our power of our voice within those systems that are being built.
Exactly.
And, that's what I see the future of voting going that way. I see how everything in this country and this world is going to be ran at one point. It's like Terminator, us against the machines, and then reprogramming starting from scratch and reprogramming there. But those are all, theories, so to speak, that have come to life in slow motions. So how do you guys want to, what is the lasting message that you guys want to share with, your audiences? They're coming from all different walks of life, old and young, mature and new. How would you want to end your, just what's your message?
I'll go first. My message has always been the same. Don't just vote, be politically educated. There is a lot going on. You got a presidential election coming up next year. Regardless of who you're voting for, be educated about who you're voting for. Find their track record. Write down what your top 10 issues are, and then research the people that you are going to vote for and see if they actually hold true to what your standpoints are. Don't just go vote for them because of the party that they're affiliated with. Don't just vote for them because your friend who's in politics said this is the good person. Be your own researcher. Be your own expert. And reach out. I mean, there's great organizations out there that can give you information. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to your actually elected official. That's their job is to represent you. If you've never once talked to the person you voted for, you're not doing your job, because your job is to hold them accountable. If you're electing them and you've never talked to them, then whatever they're doing in office, that falls back on you at that point because you put them in there to represent you, and you've never even told them what type of representation you wanted. So reach out to them. Hey, I'm sending this email because I want to have a meeting with you. So reach out and be educated. Don't just vote. Be politically educated.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap up with, it's all about, take a role, ROLE, or roll with the consequences. And I mean, that's self-explanatory. Like, a lot of people always, saying complaining or they don't know, where to get involved. I mean, it's so much like out here. And it's just up to you to take the first step. The first step is to get involved. Right? Really, the first step is to, be curious.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the curiosity is gone, it's up to you. Like, there's plenty of information out there. Like, I don't got nothing else to say because, I mean, it's self-explanatory. But follow, us, the power of your voice, and the cities that we're coming to, because when we usually bring, elected officials or organizations who are doing this work that specifically in these cities, and you can connect with those individuals. So my email is right there. Reach out to me.
Yeah.
If you need anything else, we will be there. But that's all I got.
Well, I love this. Just like Tamara said, the Power of Your Voice is a featured seminar in our Black College Expos and also any of our major events that we have nationwide. We're in 15 major cities across the nation. Starting in September, we're going to be traveling throughout the United States of America, bringing information, resources, and college and career access to a city near you.
Right.
And you can go to our website at www.thecollegeexpo.org to find out more information about who we are, what events that we have. And you can also follow us on all our social media platforms. That's, LinkedIn, Facebook, Black College Expo, National College Resources Foundation, Latino College Expo. We have tons. NCRF is our handle. Our National College Resources Foundation is our handle. So you can definitely follow us. But the message that I want to leave with you guys and elevate your game, this is the power of your voice. It starts in your home, then it goes to your schools, and question everything. If you don't know the answer, ask a question. And even when you're researching it, question it some more. Just like when you went to the prison, LeLann, what was it? That question came up like, why are you sending us here? As opposed to taking us to a place where we can actually see, our voice being heard, our elected officials hearing our voices. No, they're trying to say, if you don't get your life together, this is where you're going to end up. That's pretty much what they want to say to you. We don't think of anything more than this. And that's a scare tactic. We are more than what they have placed in front of us. We are more than that. And that's just why this is Elevate Your Game. This is why we have the power of your voice. This is why we increased awareness through our seminars and outreach. So thank you again for joining us. Until next time, peace.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.